if you are in that desperate position where you need to sell your home, maybe you are going to, get taken advantage of in terms of price, in terms of conditions, in terms of like a ton of different things.
Totally. You're going to have to bend over.
Yeah.
Right? You're not going to have a choice. And what's at risk if you don't is your deposit that you have now purchased another house with, which is tens of thousands of dollars. I am a big, big advocate of always, always, always take the sacrifice of a living situation that is not your dream living situation, which is hard for people to do now, especially the days that we're in of like Instagram and everyone's like fronting a better lifestyle than they're actually living, right? It's hard. Our brains are not adapted to even deal with that, right?
Welcome to Supply and Demand with Adam Nadler. This is a podcast dedicated to the real estate market in Canada, available now on YouTube, Apple Music, and Spotify.
Jeff, no introduction needed, man. Thanks for coming back for like the millionth time.
Love being here. I'll come as often as I'm invited.
Well, the market, I have no idea what the hell's going on. You're seeing all kinds of stuff. Tell me about what you're seeing right now.
Yeah, so we kind of talked about before the cameras came on, but different price points from what we're seeing are getting either a lot of attention or not a lot of attention from clients that we have pre-approved. So for example, the $1 million+ market, very active right now. The 1.5 and above market, at least for my clients, it's a little bit slower. We're not seeing as many bidding wars and whatnot, but it's that $1 million to 1.5 that is really picking up or has picked up over the past little while.
Why is that? Like, isn't it harder to qualify for those?
It is, but I think the reason that's picking up so much right now is because interest rates have skyrocketed over the last 6 weeks. So if clients were with a good broker prior to 6 weeks ago, they had a pre-approval that's likely going to expire in sometime in October or early November. So a lot of clients, if they want to secure that rate hold, which is a lot better, probably like 80 basis points lower than where current rates are, they're wanting to close on a property by August, maybe early November, meaning they should be they're purchasing today.
So it's a time delta on just like a pre-approval.
Yeah, I would say that probably has a pretty big impact on things. Like in 6 weeks from now, rate holds they're not great rate holds right now. So I wonder, is there going to be as much activity in 4 to 6 weeks from now as there is right now? Because rates haven't moved much in the last month or so.
Well, isn't that also largely dependent on, what the Bank of Canada does? The next interest rate announcement, I believe, is September 6th.
You got it.
So, I know we do these predictions every time, and sometimes we're right. Most of the time we're wrong. Disclaimer for everybody.
My favorite video you did is I was wrong again.
Yeah,
that one. It was just very true. That's how everyone feels.
Well, yeah. 75% of analysts were saying, "Hey, they're going to hold it," and then they jacked it. And so, what do you think is going to happen in September?
I'm expecting a hold, just because I expected it again in July. The June inflation numbers were lower than expected.
But then it went up.
Report yesterday came out that they're up like just over the 3% mark again. So I'm just gonna go with what would make people happy and just say there's no increase, no decrease, absolutely, but no increase, because it's gone up a lot and it's hurting a ton of people. I would say I find it very interesting that in July rates went up again for the first time in a couple months, and it went up 0.25%. And with not a huge jump, but it's really triggered a lot of clients that I'm working with, or clients that I hadn't worked with, contact me to say, Jeff, like, I need to do something. So whether that's locking into a fixed rate, whether that's re-amortizing their existing mortgage, whether that's maybe it's time to sell. I've had more conversations all throughout the summer than I have throughout all the previous time during all the previous rate increases.
Some of that makes sense to me, I guess, but a lot of it, what we saw last night, for example, I guess for everybody watching this, Jeff and I represent these clients, and we were in an offer night situation last night for a house in Newmarket. It was like a bungalow in Newmarket, nice house, beautiful lot. But I mean, a month or two ago, that thing would have just sat there. And last night there were 11 offers on it. It was madness.
And I imagine all those offers were at asking price. There were probably some pretty competitive offers.
So here's what happened. And to be honest, I'm not even sure how much I'm allowed to talk about this, but I mean, whatever, screw it. I don't have that many subscribers. So what happened was we had 11 offers last night, and I built a really good rapport with the listing agent. Her name was actually Jennifer Clements. She was fantastic to work with, and I've been selling real estate full time for almost 8 years now, right? So I've worked with a lot of different agents, and she was fantastic. So Jennifer, if you're watching this, good on you. You killed it. We built a good rapport, and she basically said, hey, look, we're going to send back all those kind of non-starters, those below asking, whatever they were, because she did list it low. We're not going to invite those people back, but we are going to invite people back who are in the running. And so out of the 11, there was 4 that she invited back. We were one of them. And of those 4 who were invited back, we all improved except for one. One dropped out. So then there were kind of 3 in the running. And
Like this is like a movie, and I'm all invested into this. Keep going. Yeah.
So what happened was we were basically tapped. We couldn't do anymore. And so I started pulling out all the stops, everything that I could think of that would make our offer stronger without price. So I called up my clients who were the nicest people, by the way. And I was just like, guys, get on video. I need a video from you. Just tell them how you feel about the house, how you love the house, and bring your baby into the shot.
That doesn't hurt. Doesn't hurt to have that.
They have the cutest little boy. He's just such a sweetheart. And I was like, make sure Miles is in the video. And then I did a video kind of explaining the terms of our offer and why we did it this way and that way and that kind of thing. In that video, I also made sure to gas up Jennifer so that she's going to be incentivized to not only show it to her clients, but she's also kind of building more rapport with me and kind of happy with me there as well, right? Doesn't hurt to curry your favor, right? So I did that, and then I called you, my man, and I asked you, I was like, Jeff, would you send us a video and just do your thing? And you did. And that was hugely helpful, by the way, because they also knew who you were.
Yes, I know that team of realtors up in my neck of the woods.
So just before I move on with this story, because we did win in the end, and we did win with less money than the highest offer, I will say. What did you say in that video? Because it really did help.
Yeah, pretty much. If I feel super comfortable and confident with clients, they provided me every single document. We have their credit. We have everything we need. It's easier. It's very easy for me to confidently say these clients are good to go on the financing side of things. So that's pretty much what I told the realtor, the listing agent, is, hey, my name's Jeff. I'm the mortgage agent working with Adam and these clients, and I want to let you know from the financing side of things, these clients are the best you can get. The AAA, the whatever you want to say, just the best of the best. And if you need anything, give me a shout. We obviously don't go over anything confidential, but just knowing from my experience, and we've talked about this a lot, having a third party, I guess, to say, hey, these clients are actually good to go. It's not like one of these fake offers or, strong down payment, strong income, strong credit, they will not get declined from a lender. And having that, I know as I mentioned, we've talked about it, definitely can help the situation as well.
Oh, it 100% helped. With those 3 videos, plus I got, my clients, they wrote up a little something, just kind of talking about how they felt about the home, added a little picture of them. And then on top of that, I said, guys, do me a favor, run out to the bank right now and get the bank draft cut for the deposit right now, because normally you have 24 hours to provide the deposit. But I was like, you know what? Let's just show them that we have it here today. So even if there is an offer that is beating us, which there was, an offer that was beating us, they didn't have that money in hand.
Money talks, eh? The cash in hand.
That's right. And like you can accept an offer on paper today that's higher, but it's just paper. And you still got to pray and kind of cross your fingers and hope that that money is coming tomorrow. Whereas with us, it's a done deal, sealed, finished tonight.
Yep.
And that really helped as well. Anyways, that whole kind of combination of things. The sellers were actually these wonderful people who had put so much love into that house and had really fixed it up and like done so much work to it over the years. And for them, seeing that video and especially from the buyers, it really tugged on the heartstrings. And so they were really rooting for them. And so what ended up happening is because they said, hey, look, not only is it money now, but we also actually think that these buyers would be a better fit for the neighborhood. And it may be that the other buyers would have been a great fit too, but they just didn't know them. There was no humanizing effect to that other offer. And so, you know, you kind of combine that whole picture. We actually ended up beating out the other offer that had more money.
I think it's so important. This is why when I'm referring clients, if clients come to me first, and I'll refer to realtors that I work with that I know will, like, these are like, you probably listed off 3, 4, 5 extra steps that not everyone will do. I would say the majority of people probably wouldn't do, majority of real estate agents. So to have somebody in your back pocket like you who is literally thinking, okay, how else, you know, we're tapped out on the actual money. How else can we find a solution to get this house? So rapport building with listing agent, deposit check in hand, video. I know you had built a rapport a few days before with the listing agent as well. Like, so many steps to secure these clients their property that maybe your clients don't even know that you did all that. But you know, I'm sure everyone right now is just super thankful that you pulled it out, and it's incredible.
It was super hard, but I was really surprised at seeing how many offers were coming to the table, and not just on this one, but we had seen other properties. And every time an agent does a showing, we get notifications on any offers that come in on that particular property. So even if we're not really interested in moving forward, I'll always update the client and just say like, hey, by the way, remember that house that we saw? Well, they have X number of offers, right? Or just kind of update them as it's happening. And then afterwards, hey, it sold for this much, or it didn't sell, or whatever. So I was seeing like half a dozen offers on like going on everything. And I was so shocked because I'm like, we just had 2 interest rate bumps, right? In the past, like just over the summer.
Yeah.
No one expected that. We probably have, I mean, I guess here's my prediction. I think that we are going to see an interest rate bump.
This is the first time I think we're taking opposite sides. So at least someone's going to be right, which is nice.
I had to even our chances of like being successful because I'm going to get roasted in the YouTube comments anyways, so I might as well.
One of us will get to gloat. And right.
So I think that the ability to like see that from kind of behind the curtain of like how many offers are actually getting registered from an agent's perspective, it's just shocking. You're like, how is this even happening? Who are these people that are buying up all these properties at these higher price points with huge debt loads that they're taking on at very high interest rates? I mean, what does that payment look like if you're taking on $1 million mortgage at 7%, right? Is that what rates are at right now?
I'm like 6-ish, high fives, okay. 6%, let's say, pretty much on average.
What does that monthly payment look like?
Right now, we're looking somewhere around like a $6,000 a month mark for $1 million mortgage itself. Maybe a little bit more, but yeah.
That's wild.
It's a lot of money. It's a lot of money on a monthly basis. We're talking $72,000 a year in just your mortgage payments. Then you have property taxes. Then you have closing costs on the purchase. Then you have maintenance and all that fun stuff.
Land transfer tax.
If you're in Toronto, it's about $1 million. Anyways, it's a lot. It's you know, 40, 50 grand. But the other thing is, I forgot what I was going to say. You have to cut that. Sorry.
Oh, we're not cutting anything.
All right, we'll figure this out. Oh, The other thing is when it comes to monthly payment, that's what it is. So because interest rates are 6% or 6.5% or 5.5%, whatever you get it at, the actual percentage of that monthly payment going towards the principal balance in most cases is under 20%.
What?
Yeah. So if you're paying or let's say under 25%, if you're paying $6,000, maybe 1,500 is going towards the principal balance of the mortgage, and then $4,500 is going towards interest.
How is that kind of calculated? Like, how do banks look at these ratios and go, where is the threshold of acceptability in terms of those ratios?
So that's pretty much based on, it's based on your amortization calculator. Like, how long would it take you to pay off $1 million mortgage over 30 years with this interest rate as the rate for 30 years? Not a true calculation, because that would be the way it's done in the States. In Canada, when you sign a mortgage, you see an amortization schedule and you see kind of where your payments will end up at the end of the term and all that. But the way your monthly payments are determined is based off of that interest rate. And if you amortize over 25 years or 30 years or 35 years or whatever that is, the higher you go, the more of that monthly payment goes towards interest. It's kind of like a simple calculation that anyone can pop onto an amortization calculator online and figure out. But when most clients see it, it's like a hit of like, oh my gosh, what, like 20 to 25% of my payments going towards principal? That's it. So at the end of your term, you paid like $75,000 on your mortgage, and maybe you paid down like $15,000 on your actual principal balance. It's tough. Doesn't feel good. So, and to your point of like, where are all these buyers? Like, who are the ones that are all doing this? It's the same, for that offer that you said, maybe it's the same 11 buyers who are bidding on the same 11 houses as everyone else has. It's challenging out there.
It seems to me like there is definitely something that is not quite right with all of this, because Toronto is an equity game. Everybody knows that. This is why people don't really care to pay down their mortgage and put in extra payments, and people really, really avoid that. I get it. It makes sense to me in that sense, but like, what seems to be a little off is how people are taking on this much private debt, and then when interest rates bump up, more people are clamoring to take on more private debt.
Yeah, and the other thing is, so these people who are taking on debt, like I've had conversations with people who are, my investments are doing well, so I'm just going to use my line of credit to pay down some of these closing costs or pay down part of the down payment. And then when we run the numbers, like they're paying almost 8% in a lot of situations on their line of credit to use to it's so expensive right now. It's a very, very expensive time. So I like the equity play. It makes sense in a lot of situations. And to be honest, like in my opinion, there are definitely still deals out there. Not really in Toronto, not so much in the GTA. But if you're an investor and you're looking in Hamilton, actually some great sales and stuff. Like there's some good deals out there.
Yeah.
If you go even more north, like I have clients who are investors. They want to buy their third investment property. In the GTA, their affordability is $400,000. Buy a property up here, you could probably find one for $400,000, but you're not cash flowing because it's not going really well, or not a nice place. You have to put a ton of work into it. So connected with the partner up in Timmins, and there are some amazing properties out there, some duplexes that are cash flowing $800-900 a month. So it's just kind of allocating those funds appropriately. So if you ideally want to buy in Toronto, you want to buy your third investment property, you already have a property management company that you like to work with, you're not doing it yourself, maybe it's time to explore elsewhere.
It seems like investors are definitely starting to chomp at the bit a little more, because that is something that I'm noticing, which makes sense, because as interest rates go up, rent increases. And we've seen such drastic increases in rent that investors are kind of seeing an opportunity and going, hey, look, I'm going to pay a higher interest rate now, but I'm also going to get a very high rent now. And that rent is not going to come back down. It's only going to keep increasing. but that interest rate will eventually come back down, and then I'm going to be in a cash flowing position.
Yeah, 100%. And like you said, if you're buying in Hamilton or around the GTA, there's probably still a bit of an equity play there as well. So you're getting the benefit of interest rates will likely drop. You can probably refi out your initial down payment when the property value increases, and you'll be in a pretty good position. You can be in a pretty good position, but it's not, in my opinion, it's not going on House Sigma and trying to like find something there. It's connecting with somebody who deals a lot with investors, who has relationships with people, and finding those deals, maybe the off-market deals or something like that, where it's not the standard realtor.ca listings in some cases.
Right. And that's where you see like the cap rates start to creep up a bit, right? Whereas like historically, if you're in Toronto or the GTA, I mean, cap rates are for years have been bupkis, like we're talking like sometimes, sub 3 in some cases.
Yeah. So we just ran one for this property up in Timmins for a client. And yeah, I think the cap rate was like 8 or like, it was up. It might have hit 10. I'm not sure, but it was phenomenal. So, we do like a full analysis to ensure that this was a private sale, but what the sellers are saying was true. But, if you're getting up in the 7, 8, 9, 10, like these are real opportunities.
Another thing that I wanted to kind of ask you about is some of these situations that we're seeing right now, especially with interest rates, breed a bit of these like weird situations that people end up finding themselves in through all kinds of poor decision making or just like bad habits. What are like the wild things that you've seen that have been produced in this market because of those previous decisions or bad habits that you would say, hey, look, like no one saw that coming, or like clearly that was a bad idea and I could have told you that beforehand and people should avoid doing that?
There's a lot. So a couple of things that come to mind, there's two different things. One is like on the purchase side of real estate. And the second is like, I work with a lot of clients who will reach out. They have a lot of debt, a lot of equity in their property, but have a lot of debt in lines of credit and credit card debt and all that. So 90% of the time it makes sense to consolidate all of that onto one payment, your mortgage payment, because, when it comes to a credit card or line of credit, your mortgage payment is going to be cheaper than that. Your interest rate is going to be cheaper. So one thing that's been happening a lot of is when we've consolidated a lot of these clients' debt, we keep lines of credit open because just as what if money for clients. But what's been happening is clients are struggling, whether it's to make a mortgage payment or just to buy groceries or to whatever it is, sign their kid up for sports or whatever it is. So they're using this line of credit. And it's growing and growing and growing. And these interest-only payments are great for a lender, but for clients, it's not paying down any of what what the clients purchased. So we're like kind of doing a whole like campaign to reach out to these clients who we've done like these debt consolidations for in the past and said, hey, like give us your situation. What's going on here? How can we help to alleviate all of this monthly debt and stress on your life? That's been like a huge issue, and it's been helpful for many, many clients, which is great. But, the idea of doing a full like education session on, do we want to keep this line of credit open? Is this going to happen again? And how can we avoid it? Like, how can we stop this from happening again? So that's kind of on like the refi side or like the debt side of things with the higher interest rates. But on the purchase side, we've seen a lot of clients who will purchase real, like on the absolute top end of their budget with no backup. What I mean by backup is usually like we'll have, again, it's all about education in both in our industry, I'll say. But when it comes to things like, hey, like if you can't make your payment, what are we looking at here? Because we see clients' income, whether it's self-employed, salaried employee, like a healthcare worker where there's maybe more flexibility to earn money. But for those salaried employees where you know they're going to get the 1.5% increase every year, if I had pretty like frank conversation with the clients around like, what are you going to do to make this payment? Because I see what you make. I say this in a bit of a nicer way. We see what you make and we see what this mortgage payment is. So there's a bit of a disconnect. How am I going to do this? So many of those clients who ended up still purchasing are now reaching out to be like, Jeff, what are my options? Do I have to sell? If I have to sell, what are we expecting the price to go for? In a lot of cases, it's at what they purchased at, maybe a little bit less in certain areas. So it's a pretty wild time out there. That's those are the bigger things that I'm seeing right now.
And who are the people taking those risks? Actually, even before you answer that, just super quick, if you guys are enjoying this content, please subscribe to the channel, hit the like button so this video can be pushed out to more people like yourself. And sorry about that, had to do it. Who are the people that are like kind of pushing the envelope? Are you finding it's more first-time buyers who are saying like, I just got to get into the market and are pushing themselves a little harder?
For sure. It's been a lot of it's all first-time home buyers. Yeah, people with access to equity in their current home, I found at least, have more ability or more room to, to buy a little bit. Like everyone has equity in. If you're not a first-time home buyer, it's likely you have a lot of equity in your home. So if you're still saving and you're on like that 2% interest rate, like there's room. It's not as much pushing the envelope. However, another example of a question you asked earlier was like, what mistakes have I seen? And one over the past couple months has been buying before you sell and using a projected amount that you think you're going to get for your home and projecting that is going to be the down payment on your new home.
Can I tell you that has been the number one thing that I have told people not to do? And and I have a few listen, a few don't. But when you're an upsizer especially, and upsizing I find is the most difficult thing to do. There is nothing more difficult than the move that an upsizer makes. First-time buyers, they take it on the chin for years, all day long. First-time buyers take it on the chin. But it actually, logistically speaking, is not as hard as a first-time, as an upsize, because you're usually in a position where you're either with family or you're renting and you can move at whatever point.
You're on most of the time, they're on like a month-to-month contract or lease. And yeah, there's so much more flexibility with closing date and all that.
Right. And so they don't understand that fear yet. But when it does happen and when it does really sink in is when you are an upsizer and you realize that, oh my God, I've got option A and option B, and in no particular order, here's what my options are. I either buy something first and hope to God that I sell my place for the right price in order to justify my purchase, or I'm stuck owning two homes and I could possibly, be in breach of contract, not close on this home, right, and lose my deposit, which is tens of thousands of dollars, and possibly be sued as well for any damages. Or if that seller sells for less, they could sue me for the difference. It's just a mess.
Yeah.
Or option B is I could sell my place. Now I've got a closing that I've got to kind of like buy before this closing hits. And now I'm put in a position where, what if I don't find a place that I love? Number one, am I going to end up homeless? Or even worse, am I going to settle for a place I don't like? And then I'm just going to have to move all over again. There's so many fees involved with that, and that's a mess.
Sounds like you've had a few of these conversations before.
Totally. And from a financial perspective, which is why I love that you said this, it is always going to be safer to sell first before you buy.
100 million% of the time. There are some markets like in Jan, Feb, and March of 2022 where you knew your place was going to sell. Very high likelihood that it would.
Until it didn't.
Until it didn't, exactly. But there are times when, sure, you can maybe make an argument that, I remember in January of 2022, it seemed like week over week, prices were increasing like 50 grand, the same unit in the same condo building.
Insane.
It was insane. But if it's me, I'm not a risk taker, but I would not take that risk, and I would just sell. If you lose out on, $20K that you could have got if you listed your place after you bought, it is what it is for peace of mind. I'll give you two examples over the summertime, or late spring, early summer, where both clients bought before they sold. One client did not get the asking price that they wanted, or they got like a few $100,000 less than what they wanted.
Oh God.
Which essentially meant that, sure, we had an approval with the lender based on the fact that clients sold their property for X amount, or even like a little bit less than that. We were fine. But the market, as you know, the market plummeted. So what happened? They sold their house, but they don't have the down payment that they needed to close on the new one. So we had to go for some extended ratios. We had to go to a new lender. We got it done. Property closes today, which is great, but it's a more expensive process for the client because traditional lenders couldn't do the deal. They needed a much higher down payment, which is really unfortunate. So when we had many conversations around, or this was somebody I already bought, but anyways, second example, same thing. Client bought before they sold, and clients are still very sticky on the price that they want to get on their home. There's no budgeting. So I'm sure, I don't know if you've dealt with, with people who are just, I want $1 million for my home and I'm not settling for anything less, and it's not selling. And now they're going, there's issues. Are they going to close? And how is that going to affect the seller of their property? How is it going to affect like all the legal back channel of all that? So the idea around selling first is one that, without a doubt, to save stress, to save time, to save energy for clients, it's pretty much a must do.
I've seen the stress levels on both sides and all the crazy kind of hamster wheel spinning stuff that happens in clients' heads, and the stress levels that come with that when they're on either side of that equation. So when they're in situation A and situation B, and I can tell you with 100% certainty that it is always way, way more stressful when you buy first, because when you're laying awake at night and you're staring at that ceiling thinking, I own 2 homes, what the hell am I going to do?
Yeah.
Like, that is just, I wouldn't wish that upon my worst enemy. It is a horrible stress to experience, and it's terrible.
It is too. And then, if you are in that desperate position where you need to sell your home, maybe you are going to, get taken advantage of in terms of price, in terms of conditions, in terms of like a ton of different things.
Totally. You're going to have to bend over.
Yeah.
Right? You're not going to have a choice. And what's at risk if you don't is your deposit that you have now purchased another house with, which is tens of thousands of dollars. I am a big, big advocate of always, always, always take the sacrifice of a living situation that is not your dream living situation, which is hard for people to do now, especially the days that we're in of like Instagram and everyone's like fronting a better lifestyle than they're actually living. Right? It's hard. Our brains are not adapted to even deal with that. Right? And that's like, I watched The Social Dilemma. Have you seen it on Netflix?
Yes.
It was the scariest thing I've ever seen.
That with like the little hamster wheel people and like, oh, they're watching this for an extra second. You get the feedback and stuff. Yeah, that stuck in my mind.
Right. And that's how people get into these like crazy ideas of like, no, I have to be living this kind of like, kind of lifestyle. And so I'm always a big advocate of like, no, like make that sacrifice. Right. And I say that as well to first time buyers. I have a few different people who I've been speaking to for a long time who are like, have a down payment to get into the market and are like kind of just really like, there's no way that this can continue. Prices are going to have to drop. And they haven't really, well, they did kind of in the winter. They've since rebounded almost completely. And I would say that overall, what they could have done, because they've had this down payment for like years now, right, is they could have just bought a place and rented it out.
Yeah.
Right. Make the sacrifice on lifestyle and have that delayed gratification so that the future is brighter. And that kind of goes into that whole picture of just sell your place first, shop aggressively.
You know what's so funny? So it's just funny timing. Every time I see you, stuff happens on the same day or like a day before. I'm like, oh, I got to tell Adam about this. He goes 100% along with what you said. A lady called me just before I was coming here, which is why I was a few minutes late. And she said, hey, I'm a referral from whoever. And, I'm a single lady in my whatever, like a little bit older, but still working. And she has a property, she has a primary residence, a cottage. And she's like, I have extra money. And I really think real estate's a good investment. I'm like, oh, interesting. Like, talk to me more about that. She's like, well, I see prices have at least stayed steady for the last, up. Sure, they've gone up and down, but they've stayed essentially like steady for the past year. And I think that's a pretty good sign for me to start investing. I'm like, oh, interesting. What's your background? Just nothing to do with finances at all. She works in like pharmaceutical sales. And then I asked the other question, like, what's your time for this? Like, what's your timeline? She wants to buy a house for her son. What's your timeline to do this? She goes, what are you at? Like, right now. I want to do it right now. I'm like, oh, that's such a different kind of way of looking at things compared to a first-time home buyer where it's sit on the sidelines. Do I do it now? Do I not do it now? Like, this lady doesn't have a whole host of money. She's not sitting. Sure, she has wealth in her properties, but cash is king. And, she's choosing to invest that into real estate and wanting to just gung-ho because there are likely deals out there. And that it was just a very different like mindset. Somebody who's done has purchased a few properties in her lifetime versus first-time home buyers sitting on the sidelines trying to guess when is the absolute best time to make that purchase.
No, you're never going to time it. No one's ever going to. I mean, I've seen people who timed it, they just got lucky. It was just
That's what it is.
Yeah, it was a circumstance in their life that led to them just like timing things properly. So, I mean, I always say better to buy and wait than to wait to buy. That's just my opinion. But again, as YouTube will remind me in the comment section, just some sleazy realtor. So,
yeah.
So, hey, what do I know? But
I think like, you and I, for example, I think we both got lucky in our real estate purchases. Like
totally.
I purchased the week before COVID shut the world down.
I purchased your buddy's place.
I know you. Yeah. He purchased in like the peak of COVID pretty much.
Yeah.
Or like earlier on in COVID.
February 2021, because the rates were ridiculously low and I knew I could lock something in at like free money.
Yeah. And probably got a steal of a deal on the place because, I'm sure it might be a friend of mine, but, that he didn't want 1,000 people going through his house and, the open houses and all that. So
it wasn't on MLS.
Exactly.
I saw it through another, mutual guy that we know. And then I just went in and just said like, I walked through that place in about 2 minutes and said, yep, I'll take it.
And I think, were you trying to time the market? Did you think that housing prices were going to skyrocket a year later? No, it's just, there's an opportunity.
No, I liked the place. It was good. And also, by the way, the seller wanted, I remember as we were negotiating, the seller wanted an extra 10 grand. And I didn't feel like it was necessarily fair at that time. And I remember thinking to myself, because like I started like being like, you know what? No. And then I remember thinking to myself, it was my former business partner at the time, was like, man, what are you arguing over?
This is what you tell clients all the time, probably.
He told me, he's like, if you were representing yourself, you would have said this to you. What are you doing? Give them the 10 grand. By the time you close, the equity will already pass that. Just who cares? Just get it done. You like the place? Buy it.
Yeah.
And he was 1,000% right. I did exactly that. I gave him the extra 10 grand, locked it up, and it was over.
Guess what happened 6 months later? The place probably gained, at least 15% in value there.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Because we did a super long closing. I think at that time, because I had the cash, I had it all locked in. I gave him he wanted like a 5-month closing. I gave it to him.
Yeah.
And then even after that, I said, if you want an extension, take it.
Yeah.
And he did. Right.
Yeah.
And by the time I closed on that place, it was already up so much.
But he sold first and then bought. Like it's great. Take a long closing because he had to go find his place and it worked out for you. It worked out.
He did it. And that was the right move. That was the right move at the right time. And I wasn't trying to time anything. Were you trying to time anything?
No, we were pregnant and we're like, well, we kind of want a little bit of greens.
Yeah.
We want to see grass. So we said, let's go north. And we found a nice place. And it just so happened that we were able to go see the open house. By the time we were putting an offer in, it was like kind of a little COVID-y, like March or February or March of 2020. And by the time we moved in, COVID. Anyway, by the time we moved in, other places on the same street were listed at a lot more than what we pay, and we were like, oh my. Well, we were the same thing, debating. Do we do an extra 20 grand? Like, we're out. No, we're back in. It's just and then now, you're pretty happy. The flip side of that is people buying in, Jan, Feb, and March of 2020. I don't think they're not kicking themselves. Like, I haven't had anything be like, oh, I can't believe I spent that much. It's more so just, shoot, like these monthly payments are getting really expensive if they're all like a non-static variable rate. But even a lot of these people in Toronto, at least, have realized like equity's fine. They're not like, they haven't plummeted.
Equity is better than fine.
Yeah.
I mean, it's great.
So it's just, hey, let's manage these monthly payments. But it's some certain places like you mentioned earlier, like Hamilton, they haven't, the equity's not as, in certain markets, certain pockets.
That's the trade-off, though.
It is what it is.
Right? Like, you're going to have a higher cap rate. You're going to have a cash flowing property. You're going to have that monthly income coming in, but you're not going to make the equity.
Yeah.
That Hamilton just doesn't appreciate anywhere near the same rate of Toronto or the GTA.
Yeah.
And that's the trade-off. Me personally, I would rather take the equity play because I know I'm going to make more money at the end of the day.
It's all about, like, what I tell clients all the time is like, it's my job to ensure that you are comfortable with whatever that monthly payment is going to be. I do a lot of appreciation calculators on a super conservative end to show them this is what the equity will look like. But I need to make sure that you can pay that monthly payment for the next, 2-year term, 3-year term, 5-year term, or whatever it is. And as long as you can make that payment minus the rental income and you're fine with like a deficit of 600 or whatever it is a month, then that equity is going to be incredible.
It's going to be way higher at the end of the day. And this is whenever I, do these kind of analysis breakdowns and things like that, the same way that you're doing them.
Done them together.
We've done them together. And it's always the same thing, is that you see low equity appreciation with high cash flow. And so you're either going to be making whatever it is, even if it's a few $100 a month, at the end of the year, you're only going to be making whatever it is, $5,000, $7,000, $9,000 at the end of the year, right, in cash flow. And the equity appreciation is going to be whatever, a few thousand more than that. But in Toronto, even if you're cash flow negative by $200, and if you can handle that,
that's the key word. If you can handle it,
if you can stomach that and you can handle that, the equity appreciation in Toronto and the GTA is going to have you tens of thousands of dollars ahead at the end of the year in money that you can just refi and just port into something else. And that is like a huge, huge thing. Again, it's not something a lot of people are comfortable with, but the people who do crunch those numbers and have at least the income from their job enough to be able to support that, make a killing with it.
Yeah, you want to know something really interesting? Is so if you are claiming a loss on your taxes for a property, like if you're running a negative cash flow property, you got to get some tax breaks on that, which is awesome. For how many years? Let's say it's a 5-year term. After that 5-year term, you refi, you pull out your initial equity that you put in. That equity you're pulling out, that's completely like tax free. You're not getting taxed on that. So it's kind of, you're winning two ways, which is awesome. You're getting a tax deduction if you are netting a loss, or you can, write out the interest and all that. And when you refi, putting that money back in your account, it comes in tax-free income, which is a nice bonus.
It's beautiful. It is completely, it's managing money the correct way, in my opinion. And there's lots of ways to do that with other securities and things like that. But hey, this is a show about real estate. I wanted to just thank you for something actually that I have been super thrilled with, and I thought was like the coolest thing ever, is Jeff actually got me these coasters for the podcast that are like custom branded, like Vision cup holder coasters, and I love them. They're so cool. So I wanted to like say thank you. Yeah, you got this one too. You got this one, the Wear There one. That is like so cool. So thank you very much for that, sir.
You are welcome.
Always appreciate you having you on, and we're gonna do this again soon, man.
Until next time.
Thanks for listening. Don't forget to like, follow, and give us a review.